Welcome back to PodRocket, web development podcasts brought to you by LogRocket. LogRocket provides AI-first session replay and analytics which surface the UX and technical issues impacting user experiences. Start understanding where your users are struggling by trying it for free at logrocket.com. I'm Noel, and today we're back with our panel episode. We'll talk about the current state of AI coding tools, as we always seem to do. We'll talk about some SpaceX Cursor acquisition stuff going on, buns, big rewrite everybody I feel has very strong opinions on across the internet, and more supply chain attacks on the TanStack side this time. But before we get in, let's welcome the panel. We're a slightly smaller crew today. Jack Harrington.
Hello, happy to be here.
Paul Mikulskis, how are you?
I'm excited to talk about the SpaceX deal as well. I feel like that one has a lot of good fruit.
I guess, just to frame this a bit, there was a tweet that went out and maybe a blog post that there was some arrangement where in the next, I think it was 6 to 12 months, SpaceX had the option to pay up to $60 billion for Cursor. Is that right? Is that how you guys read this as well?
I know they had the option. The 60 billion is sounds like a lot. But
yeah.
It's a freaking VS Code fork, dude. Most of the code is actually VS Code. The candy coated topping on top that's Cursor, and they don't even do the models. I think they
got Composer.
Their Composer 2 is actually just a rewrapped of a different model that they didn't do either. And it's not that I don't listen. Hey, I'm a Cursor fan. I love it. I use it every day. The UX of the harness itself matters if it's what you do, and it's a badass harness, and I'm in.
Is it a
but is it worth? Is that worth 60 billion on its own?
Yeah,
I could.
That's an unfathomable number to me for any dev tooling thing, where it's it really exists in the production space. Maybe I think it's totally hinged upon how much does this expand out of software devs writing code, and is this the mechanism through which a much broader audience of AI agentic coding is happening? Is probably the question there.
I guess if they get in the whole design space and then that kind of thing. The one thing I haven't really seen them do or anybody solve this is really fleet management. If I have 3 different projects running simultaneously and 2 agents per, right? I'm not a developer anymore. I'm an air traffic controller, right? And it's, this one's stuck. Where's my dashboard for that? In the context switching, when I'm moving from getting agent 1 unstuck and going over to agent 15 and getting it unstuck is the real killer. It's wait, what were you doing again? What does this app do? I don't even know. Where were we? That whole thing, nobody has solved that yet. And that's what I want Cursor to solve. That's what I want, or anybody. I'll take literally anybody at this point to solve that problem.
I think I agree. And that that is the tricky bit. I find even if I'm doing a good job of air traffic controlling, I feel a lot of the time I have a tarmac problem for me, where it's the environment, say I'm starting up a new project. I don't have it orchestrated off to the point where I can be okay, as these agents run, I can give all of them a completely isolated environment over which they can run the test suite, and all these things can be occurring in parallel. So it's now I've only got 1 dB just on this little whatever. I spun up something. I've got a single database running, and it's making changes that are impacting the state of the database. And if I point multiple at it and the tests are running, they're going to step on each other's toes and it's going to get confused. So one needs to do the work to set the thing up so you can parallelize all these flows and they have truly isolated environments. And that's a lot of work. And I haven't seen something yet off the shelf that feels this is just the thing you reach for, and then it's done. There's people trying to solve this.
Shelf.
It can't be.
The big players all have their tooling, but it's...
Well, I mean, I would say Workspace is going to get you your code splitting.
Right? Yeah, but I don't think that's the hard part. It's that's
the ground floor.
Exactly.
And for the database stuff, Neon's the guy that's got the branching, the Postgres branching at this point, and I think that would be a solve there. But that's just... those are tactical problems. You could say the same thing for microservices or
exactly.
I don't know, whatever other resources.
Your auth system, or you name it. There's a million things.
Exactly.
The only way I've gotten this problem solved is I had the team make this thing called the unified dev image. Okay. And it's this Docker image that gets built in layers. Every microservice goes in at a layer and it runs everything. We have probably it's asinine. It reminds me of omnibus from back in LogRocket days when we just put everything into one image and we're just like, here you go. But it runs I'm running ingest or trigger.dev, databases, auth, and now that it's containerized, you can have an orchestrator agent use 10 of these. But that is the only way I can trust true headless agent development. It needs to be able to run the whole damn test suite, seed the database, reset it, take screenshots, put them in a bucket, and then attach the screenshots to the PR. Otherwise, how do you know? And it's got to be custom.
I mean, Stripe. Again, Stripe had that whole blog post about their whole pipeline. It's the same thing. It's just like everything needs its own isolated, like end-to-end environment. How do you get there, I think, is still up in the air.
Anyway. There's definitely like an emerging custom harness thing. It's when you unemploy all the developers, how do you re-employ them? We actually re-employ them by having them build harnesses for the other developers who didn't get unemployed. Just this weird circular thing. But like the idea of a new custom harness, like per or a very customized thing or whatever. That's the kind of stuff that takes
development time, and it's like really hard to figure it out, honestly. Like, it's just so new. We're in the research and experimentation phase. It reminds me of when, so I have close family members that have worked on pharmaceutical drugs, and you're going out with this like feeler stick, spending billions and billions of dollars, just doing wet lab experiments, doing assays, like looking at the results, and then eventually you start to zero in on something. Imagine if they could just buy a lab. Oh, I just bought a lab. No wonder the lab is worth like $2 billion, and the only thing they do is titrate. Excuse my pronunciation. Titrate. Yeah. They titrate things a little bit differently. Oh, big deal. But look, they found a solution in a nebulous landscape. And I'm sure there's some of that with Cursor as well, which is like everybody's making an agent harness. I don't know about you guys. I've probably tried like 10 different ones in the past like couple months just to try them out. It's like there's a huge difference between the ones that work and the ones that don't work. And the ones that currently work today probably won't work in a few weeks. So if Elon can buy one, this works. Okay, guys, if we needed millions and millions of dev and ops, this one works. And now we can control it. It's more about finding a railroaded way to control people that they already have proven works. They're not looking at MRR or any of these other KPIs. They're looking at, can this control people? And it's proven. That's their MVP. They've controlled people. But 60 billion, come on. I understand. When I first heard any of the bids for Cursor, I was just like, you're kidding me. There's no way. Now I get it. Like, I understand why it's big. I don't know why it's 60 billion big.
That's sad. That's crazy. That's crazy.
It seems like the ROI there just seems very, again, we can play the long tail eventually if everyone's using this, and you can control the agent thens of getting used and all that jazz, like maybe, but still, like that's just such a big number. Like you can do a lot of work with $60 billion. Like you can build a lot of stuff.
For Twitter around that?
I don't know.
And Twitter had accounts for half the freaking planet, man. It was in the black and all that. I don't even know if Cursor's in the black. They're basically just a middleman between you and Anthropic. And that right there is a tenuous position to be in the first place. Anthropic is at some point going to be like, we're going to need to start charging actual money for this.
Yeah, I think it's happening across the board. Another bullet point we have here is Copilot's switch to token.
Yeah, they went 27x for Opus.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's an eye popper.
Yep. I feel like that's going on across the board. And I don't think this is surprising anyone. Everyone knew the token cost was going to come due at some point here, and we weren't going to be in the glory early days of highly subsidized prompting, a la like the early days of Uber and Lyft and all these other things where we'll subsidize people, get them on the platform. But I think this is just happening at such a large scale. It's just like these companies can't keep operating at a high loss per token here.
Yeah.
So I think that is going to be like that. I think that will also heavily play into this. It's just, we're seeing skills that come up that are solely built around optimizing token usage and all this stuff now.
And local models. There's going to be a lot of work in the local model space and the train model space for various platforms and stuff. You'll have your next model, and your TanStack model and yada. And you can run those on your Llama instance on a decently powered machine and get some decent results, that kind of thing.
It's very impressive what some of the local models can do these days. Like the Gemma 4, if you point it at the right spot, for the first time ever, I felt solace from what you're talking about, Noel, about the token cometh.
Yeah. It's like, it's real. I am curious. I haven't been using like all of the tools. I'm like a Claude CLI most of the time. But I'm curious, I think a lot of the friction there on token cost is at least the kind of layer of switching the model and therefore your approximate cost per token and token usage, the lever that controls that. I think that is a little bit clunky still in determining which one I want to use for what. And then a lot of the time I'm like, this is probably a lighter task, but I'm like not going to bother to switch to a lower reasoning mode with a quicker model. I'm just going to fire it off in the main thing. But I'm wondering if the big local model proponents are just experiencing something wherein if you had very good posture around ensuring you were like querying at the right layer and using even like a cloud model that was correctly scoped or tuned for your problem, like it would feel the same way. Like whatever. One can use Haiku for a lot of these problems that we think we need Opus for as well, I guess would be my question. Like I'm wondering if it's more of like a tuning and picking the correct model at build or at runtime, and that kind of helps.
Well, it's more like sub-agents. Like sub-agents is the kind of
like I don't even want to have to think about
where it's
it,
like,
right? Like I just want to do the thing and it picks the right agent, the right level of reasoning.
Like you got the Opus 4.7 million extra blah 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 thing, and you give it like the high level coordination task, and it's okay, little Haiku, go write this dialogue for me, that kind of thing, and then. That's where you're playing at. And the thing is, you really don't want that one going and like verifying results then too, because that basically means it's got to touch all the code again. So, it's like a whole, again, and he was totally right. Like we're in this kind of like titration phase where we're trying to figure out what all these tools are. And even processes around this, like web development processes. Do Jira tickets make any sense anymore? Does all of the roles that we have make any sense anymore? Like, it's all going to change in the next couple of years.
Sub-agents, I feel that, Jack, one of my biggest token savers, because I was using my $200 Claude all the time, up every week. I was going nuts, right? I was going, wrong with
I felt bad about that.
Why am I using like $10,000?
No, apparently you're right.
Okay, we'll put this, everything I do is typically in a mono repo. I have a sub-agent called TS-check. And now every time a type check gets run, it runs on Haiku. It tries to do lint, all that crap. And if it's something that's like architectural, then it surfaces it to the main agent. And so, Noel, I never tell it to use Haiku. I never tell it to use TS-check. It just does that. And I think like little unlocks like this will make us more efficient. It's up this like category of session forensics. So I've helped two different like small teams of friends of mine recently improve on their Claude token usage because they're on the $100 plan. And that one got used up really quick. And we do this thing called session forensics where we like use JQ, that good old CLI, to query the JSON log lines in like your home Claude project directory. And the amount of crap that is in there just from like us being the bottleneck and not using it correctly because of things like, oh, you don't have a TS-check agent, or like you could have totally used Sonnet. It is wild how much we can save. Yeah, y'all should look at your sessions. Go look at the JSON log lines and just ask Codex or Claude, where do you see 3 times or more similar turns doing the same thing? Or when do I touch the same file 17 times in one session? Then I probably keep going back and doing something. You can find a lot of low-hanging fruit. And to me, that just confirms exactly what you guys are saying. Like, it is us as a bottleneck. We need to hone our processes a little bit and become more efficient. Because similar to you, Noel, I am a Claude CLI terminal guy because I can switch windows real quick. And when you're in there, you just stay on Opus, right? You just kind of,
exactly. Yeah. Maybe every so often I'll be like, this is a quick thing. I'm popping out because I want a faster answer than I know it's going to give me. But like,
Haiku is actually, that's another thing about Haiku is it's really freaking fast. And it's not bad. It's good. I use Haiku in code mode all the time. It's blazingly fast at writing code, good, simple, standard code, fast. Another thing you can do is if you've got a subscription to like CodeRabbit, which is the PR review tool, there's a CLI that you can use for that. So you can actually do the PR reviews before you check in, which is real good. Big recommend on that. Yeah. But also you could use the cheaper models and then just make a skill where it's like, hey, after you've made changes, run a CodeRabbit review on it. And then you basically kick in a really good CodeRabbit model to come in and say, hey, they didn't do this right, didn't do that right. And you basically take a dumber model and make it smarter by pushing it through reviews. Takes a little longer because CodeRabbit's not the quickest game in town, but yeah, if that's a way where you can, if you're in Cursor, use their auto efficiency model and actually get some pretty decent results out of it.
Speaking of which, I feel like we could transition here to the bun rewrite.
The bun.
Yeah.
To be honest, before I got on this, I hadn't even heard about this, but okay, here we go.
Everybody's got opinions.
Rust. Let's go.
Yeah, so on May 14th, Jared Sumner merged the rewrite of Bun to Rust, and it's a giant PR.
Oh, yeah.
So what do we got? 1 million lines added, 2,000 files changed. No one has reviewed this code. No one's looked at all these lines. It's not a human task. And the reviews are mixed. It passed the test suite, but as you'd expect, there's 1,000 thumbs ups at least and 1,000 thumbs downs, and everyone's got strong opinions. The Rustations are pointing out that the justification for doing all of this and having the memory safety and all that stuff is like there's all these unsafe blocks inside of it anyway, so you're not really getting the thing that you're trying to do. But I'm sure it's faster. I'm sure it's smaller, right? And the test suite passes. So I guess, yeah, I'm curious what your guys' takes on this are. I think we could talk about it for Bun in particular, but I think this is an interesting analysis of as we go down the stack and you're looking at tools you're relying on. Is there appetite for this? Like, well, we can just stick AI on it and make it smarter and not have a human review it as long as the test pass. And is that a reasonable methodology of refining these highly tested, lower level tools?
That's a good way to pose it, Noel, because I am always an AI like, yes, we could totally do this with the AI. Relax. Don't worry. Please shut up. Let me do my job. Like we'll build you your agents for your solar company. I don't know. Be quiet. Don't worry about security. But I got it. Don't worry about it. But when it comes to basically saying like I'm very laissez-faire with it, because if you know how to do KMS and secrets and all these, you can have control. You can elicit control. There's always a path forward for that. But when we talk about something like this, which feels like one of the small pegs holding up the Jenga tower in the XKCD meme, I don't know. It just this is one of the only times I feel as a developer uneasy knowing that it was 99.999% AI written for something as fundamental as Bun. Is this one of the things where we really need a human? AI can write it, but we really need a human to look at all of it. Or is it one of those things where it's, okay, we want a human to write it with AI and we need to control how that like permeable membrane of who controls what a bit closer. But it definitely gives me a feeling of uneasiness. And maybe that's also a residual from how Anthropic managed or failed to manage the open bug reports from a year ago that caused the source map leak. It's just, there's a lot going on.
Yeah. And Lovable with they're basically leaking everybody's code and credentials and all that. And it's sitting there in the Jira queue for like months. Okay. Which was my response to your security thing. Like, yeah, there's a lot of folks not thinking too much about that right now.
Well, our last major topic here, we'll see.
Yeah. That one they are thinking a lot about. But anyway, a couple of thoughts. I could care less. Rust, Zig. No, I don't care. I left C and C++ world so many years ago, and I'm not looking back. Whatever. So I don't care about that. But I don't think, to me, Bun is not an infrastructural element at this point. Most people are still on Node.
Yeah.
And I know Dino is not, but I trust Node and I trust Dino. I do not and never have trusted Bun for anything. And sometimes I'll play with it and it'll work and be like, wow, that's cool, that's fast. But they're like, so many times I have tried Bun, and then next thing I know, I'm getting this weird error, this weird edge case, and like things aren't working, and it's, oh, hold on. Like I get reminded like an hour later, oh, I'm on Bun, right? And I change back to Node, immediately it works again. And I was like, oh, okay, this is yet another Bun incompatibility. And every time I engage with Bun, it does this. And then invariably I'll get like the hard word from some guy who's, Bun's the best. You gotta do it. And like, oh, okay, here we go again. So yeah, no, I don't really, cool, it's great. But Bun has always had this vibe of like, our thing is performance number one. It almost like OCD level of just, it must be performant before anything else. And I don't know, that scares me because like actually computer science 101, make it work, right? Make it good. make it fast. Like that's the order. You don't just jump to make it fast and then not worry about actually making it work. That's the point. That's been the fun way.
Yeah, I think it's hard because I feel like there's a few different kind of things going on here. I don't think a rewrite like this would have happened on many other tools, but this feels like a very Bun thing. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like this. All right.
On brand.
Yeah, exactly. It's on brand for Bun. But I think I'm of two minds, because part of me is like, if let's say I were a user and I were using Bun because I was in some environment where I really did care about performance or something, right? I understand why I'd be like, if it works and the test suite pass, like, I guess I don't know if I really care if a human wrote the code before, but you'd already have to have been in a point where you're willing to try the more experimental thing for the sake of performance. So, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're back to the cyber. I don't know if.
And is that a good thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
Honestly, this should be the ideal case for doing this sort of stuff, because so much of this stuff is just mechanical.
Yeah,
they rewrote the date class for because there were some issues in the V8 runtime around the date class. Yeah. There's no magic sauce in the date class, man. It's basic math. It works or it doesn't work. Yeah. And in fact, I would think that the only stuff that's in here that's weird is like when they were like messing around with Zig, trying to make it weird and trying to make it faster by doing little edgy kind of cute things. Yeah. And then does that port over to Rust? I don't know. Probably not, because Rust is a lot more prescriptive about memory use and all of that.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's like an interesting framing, Jack, is it's like, I think we'd all be like, okay, if someone went into the internals of some language we're writing and rewrote the utility, like the date parsing or something, in a faster language, so we'd all be like, okay, that's probably fine. We don't need this higher level language out here for the date. If someone can point this at the date parsing library and rewrite it and Go or Rust or whatever, and it becomes quicker. Yeah, I think most devs would be like, cool. But then as you move up to these higher level things, I think there's like this spectrum of where people are comfortable with that line being. And it feels like it's moving up quickly for a lot of people, and for others it's not. And I think that's the kind of friction here. I'm not sure what will happen. Do you guys think this is like kind of more, do you think this is like bad press overall for Bun? Do you think this will make people more hesitant to switch if they're thinking about it? What do you think the outcome of this?
I feel like we think more people are thinking about it than we think. Yeah,
more people.
As much of a tongue twister as that is.
Yeah, sure.
I think Jared's done a really good job being out in social media and plugging Bun and doing all that stuff in a way that the Dino folks have not. The Dino folks have done. It just feels like a more kind of rock steady, solid thing, and then you get Jared out there is kind of cutting edge, and if you want to do the cutting edge stuff, man, Jared. And then I think that's a lot of why the Bun has the presence that it does. But I think the last survey I saw was, 12% or something like that for folks. Yeah, and Node was just the overwhelming use.
I'm always skeptical of those surveys too, because I think the people filling out the surveys are the kind that are more likely to be using weirder tools, and those are the survey people.
Or it's more aspirational. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I'm using Node at work 8 hours of the day, and I'm using Bun for 2 hours out of the day. I'm going to choose Bun kind of thing. No, man, like, you're really a Node guy.
The older I get and the more teams I work with making their early stage products, just because I say that because it's not like a mature product or anything. It's like lots of small different groups. I'm finding more and more that like it matters so little, and we are so gaslit as developers to think like these tools matter. Like they just don't. Like when they're like, oh, I'm doing this and I'm using this tool versus that runtime, I'm like, so what's your MRR, my little guy?
Yeah.
Let's start there, and then we can figure out if we need to change the tools. But the tool convo is one of those things that, like, I worked with Noel years ago, and I was like a much younger kid then. And like back then I was tool rosy glasses, like looking at everything like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. You can self-host. And now I'm just like, I don't give a rat's ass. And Bun falls into that category unless we're talking about something that is going to undermine the complete fidelity of my group or whoever I'm assisting at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Which at that point is just a detriment, right? It's just why did you? And I'm with you. I've seen so many like small projects where people brought in. It's like you look at the package JSON and just this smorgasbord. It's, oh, I've got like Drizzle and another ORM and I'm using Postgres directly and I'm doing this. And you're like, what are you doing?
And then I cache the whole thing on Redis before I get to the TanStack cache.
And you're like,
which we're also going to talk about, by the way.
What are you doing? This is way too much complexity for a freaking calculator app. What is this? This is nuts. And yeah, like the whole bun thing. Did you use any, because you're probably not going to get the performance improvement that you think you are unless you're like doing crazy tight loops and stuff like that, or so maybe a little bit in the VM. But if you're not using like bun specific libraries, you're not going to get those like crazy 300x things. And then congratulations, you vendor locked yourself to bun, which if I had done that, and then Jared came out with this, oh, by the way, we're like overhauling the whole thing to Rust over the weekend because I let my Claude CLI go on freaking, whatever the loop mode kind of thing, and paid $12,000 worth of tokens, what I'm sure it was, and now we're on Rust. I would be like, oh God, that's not good, right? If I was dependent,
I'd be scared,
and so I'm very thankful to be on the outside and be like, oh, this is not my circus, not my monkeys, to be honest. Like I dabble in it, but I ain't dependent on it.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
To address a few points quickly, like Paul, I guess devil's advocate on tool choice. I think there's a bad version of this again. Like Jack was saying, you pull in like a million dependencies and there's not good cohesion in the project. But I think even if
being overly married.
Yeah, exactly. But even if this isn't one's first rodeo, I think that dev tooling decision, it feels very personal and important to people because it is like, there's some of those are very high interest decisions if you make the wrong ones early on. Right? If you make a wrong choice, it can yield a lot, of pain over a long time if you choose wrong. But I think the counterpoint here is I don't think anyone is really feeling that with using the tools that like the most people are using right now. If you're using NPM and Node and all, and you're in the TypeScript world, I don't think that is a high interest technical decision.
We've come along.
Like it's fine. If you want to play with the other ones and you have a use case for it, sure. But again, I think it is risky. Is that a decision that is gonna really, because again, nobody wants to, what's a good analogy here? Nobody wants to be like choosing Angular or something right now, right? You know what I'm saying? Is like they don't,
ouch.
Yeah. It's just, you don't want to be on the thing that then you feel like, oh, I chose wrong 3 years ago and now I've got to make a switch. But like,
although I think AI does change the equation in that space. It's, we're on Angular now.
Maybe that's part of the effect I'm feeling, Jack, which is like, doesn't matter. As long as you can learn how to drive any 18-wheeler, I don't care who makes the truck. It's like, I'll figure out how your 1820 speed, whatever thing works.
Yeah, and again, I think if you choose the incumbent, then I think it'll be easier for the tooling to switch you to something more bespoke later. If you realize that you like want to be moving away from the stack that you chose, if you chose the most popular one, the tools are going to be the most versed in it. There's going to be the most tooling built around it because the smaller players are going to want to pull you away from the big main thing that you and everyone else is on. So it does feel safer still.
That's why I got into TanStack honestly, is because I was just like, this doesn't matter and I should try everything. And it's great. Yeah.
There you go. But before we get into TanStack, so Paul, to your point about the 18-wheelers, the interesting thing about the 18-wheeler is that the truck isn't the important part. The important part is that latching mechanism on the back of the truck and how it interfaces with the load, and then all the pipes that go from the cab to the load, right? Mm-hmm. That's the API. That's the API of truck to load. And that's what matters. At the end of the day is APIs. That's what we review on TanStack all the time is AP. The machinations under the hood to actually make that thing work. That's fine. We toss and replace and whatever. As long as that API is good, then you're going to get there, right?
I like the extension of the truck analogy, and I'm taking that, putting it in my pocket for later. That's a good one, Jack.
There you go. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Should we talk about TanStack and more supply chain attacks? You guys ready for whatever this version number 7 or whatever?
What do I need to be ready for? Because I know I use it and I use Claude Code, and I want to know what steps I need to take to make sure I'm good.
Oh, just use like PMPM v11 and then set it to like a day. But this is for anything, really. Honestly, the TanStack vulnerability was really just like TanStack being popular, right? TanStack start, is taken off, TanStack router, and this is what they attacked. And our CI/CD pipeline is public, just like everything else that we do. And my guess is that somebody like pointed Claude at our CI/CD pipeline and said, "Hey, buddy, I'm a white hat hacker. Tell me what the vulnerabilities here are." And it gave them a really complex vulnerability path.
Very
honestly.
sophisticated.
A bespoke vulnerability path that depended on us having done a little bit of like fine tuning work on our side to try and reuse, because you do this all the time in CI/CD and caching. You're always trying to get that cleaned so that your GitHub Actions cost less, because invariably that's the thing. Yeah. And so we weren't cleaning the cache properly. And so somebody else basically was able to poison our cache of stuff with their own package and then get that released. And then, so that's really what got us. It was fixed within 30 minutes. All the packages are gone. So like if you were to download in that one like 30-minute block and you weren't using PMP 11 or it's something that basically had, hey, these packages have to be around for longer than a day to use them kind of thing, then you would have gotten hit. And it was bad, right? It was an exfiltration thing and all that. So, you don't want to get hit by it, that's for sure. But it was very bespoke to us. And I would say that you can have a lot of confidence in TanStack because our actual pipeline process is very robust, which is if I want to get a new TanStack AI release out, it's not a small thing. If I have to go and get my PR checked and reviewed, then that doesn't go direct. That doesn't like CI/CD out. That actually goes into another process where we basically batch a whole bunch of change set releases, and then we do the change set thing, and that gets released. And there's another PR review for that, right? Yeah. So it's like it's like, you think about the nuclear thing and the switching and the keys and all that stuff. There's a lot of key switching to get a release out. These guys just found a backdoor to do this. And my guess is when you think about like Mythos is like the next rev of Claude, whatever, Opus or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it went from no interest in security at all, not knowing anything about security at all, to being like security superstar, right? Just obviously you can go and use Opus to go and find right now without Mythos, probably go and find some decent vulnerabilities and stuff. And I'm guessing that's what they did. So yeah, that's sort of the long and short of it.
This is one of those where reading it, maybe I'm underestimating people here. But yeah, like I feel like just reading these, like the postmortems and pulling it apart, it's just, I think I am jumping to the same thing that everyone else is. It's just like a human didn't find this. It's so strange. I guess just to try to contextualize this a little bit, basically in GitHub Actions, there's two modes. There's pull request mode and pull request target mode. And you need to use pull request target mode if you want to do anything when people open PRs against a repo. So the workflow can add comments and do useful things.
Do code rabbit and autofix. And we have all that stuff.
And even when one is nicely isolating it, as the pull request target YAML config here had, it was like a dependency on something else that it used. And that thing was able to write to cache, basically. Right? And then like there was a function where via injecting code that landed on a correct path, it made it so subsequent builds after this PR had been closed and everything. So the PR was opened, it did its build, it wrote bad values to the cache, basically bad code to the cache. A subsequent build ran that actually made it and eventually got merged, and then eventually it hits the thing in the cache that runs this bad code and it exfiltrates the tokens. So there's like these like 3 different concerns that were all only bridgeable in this very particular path, and that was like the ABC that was able to get the OIDC tokens out. There was never any actual tokens compromised or anything like that. It was just the temporary tokens needed to publish.
Yeah.
But I think it does yield this thing where it's just like, it's hard for me to see a future wherein this kind of stuff doesn't keep happening. It's just like, these seem like they're going to keep getting more and more sophisticated. I don't even care about if the models get better and all this stuff. It's just like we're still in the mode where this is human configuration, like in this world wherein like these boundaries and security isolates are just really hard to properly reason over in a way that anyone would be catching this stuff.
Yeah. And I don't know why, but we do seem to spend an inordinate amount of time on CI/CD. Like I've been in companies where we have whole teams whose full job it is. And I was just like, oh my God, man. Coming out of meetings with them, I'm like, I would rather die than do this job. Yeah, the CI/CD, really? And I remember a while back, the guys behind, I think Docker had this thing where they were like doing like it was like Arrow or something like that, where they were doing like you would always know that your CI/CD is going to work because you could actually essentially run like a CI/CD build locally on your machine. And would use exactly the same harness, I don't know, Docker thing, whatever, execution environment. And it was completely isolated and all that. And so I was like, yeah, that seems cool, but it never seemed to take off. But maybe that's something. But this definitely was not just somebody going up to one of our maintainers and being like, hey, I've got this crypto idea. What do you think about downloading this code on your machine and
give it a shot?
Running it?
Yeah.
That.
No, I know. Is there something specific to the GitHub Actions kind of abstractions, you guys think? I think there's probably two things going on. I think that these kind of attacks are probably a little bit unique to open source available repos. That feels like that's the surface area right now that seems to be the kind of weak point. If maybe it's an exposure thing, but I think there's something also about this. We're trying to automate a process that inherently is going to need to trust other people's code, and we're like trying to draw this boundary really explicitly. And I think that's hard.
Yeah, we just need to.
But then on top of that, is it something with GitHub Actions in particular?
Yeah, maybe GitHub Actions is almost too flexible. Yeah, you can go and do all this kind of stuff, and at the end of the day, most developers, like, maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I don't care. Just build the thing, run the thing, be deterministic, make it so that if I would do the same build, same code twice, it should work, kind of thing, if it worked. Yeah. That's not what interested me. What interested me is building apps and deploying apps. I just want it to work. And so maybe GitHub could spend, or whatever, as a community, we can come together and have kits that just do it right and do it for this particular environment. And you can trust them and they're versioned and all that. And then you just do that, right? And then it makes it easier on me to know that what I'm doing isn't going to get hijacked by somebody and is going to work because it's best practices and all I got to do is just do it. I think Google does have some stuff around this. I remember using a Google action or something like that to do change sets or something, but something bigger than that. Hey, here's a TanStack GitHub action dubulaki. Just put this in, give us your repo and we'll make it happen kind of thing. That would be great.
Yeah, maybe we'll get there. Maybe we'll get to the point where like, I think there's a lot of configuration around the CI/CD pipelines. And that, it's like they're powerful primitives, but they're being stitched together manually by people who are probably doing this along with 17 other things in their daily job. And again, reading these, it's like, I don't know how anyone would have ever caught this. These just seem, they're such little windows in so many different places that are just these boundaries are like being hopped across.
And this would be like, I would say if Anthropic were to give us access to Mythos and say, hey, we would run it against TanStack Start. We'd run it against Router. We'd run it against the stuff that we're actually going to give you. The last thing we'd probably run it against is our CI/CD pipeline. And just to double down on stuff to add a level of kind of extra credibility on things, for TanStack in particular, I'm an idiot, man. I've gotten fished, honestly. And so the fact that somebody cannot fish from me enough credentials to push something out, even though I have access to Git, I have access to those repos, I have blah, 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 blah. Our process is so tight that it would have to PR for me and then imitate me to try and get it past PR and then get a change set. It's never going to happen, right? So it had to be this backdoor. It had to be at the raw mechanical level of GitHub Actions to get in there. And there's no single point of human failure in here where, stupid Jack could get fished and then, put out a whole bunch of packages that have exfiltration attacks. Yeah,
it's not like a social engineering attack. It's an attack it's like a backdoor. It's probably a better kind of way to think about this. It's like a CI/CD backdoor.
It was a CI/CD backdoor. Exactly. Yeah, exactly what it was.
Is the cleaner way to look at it.
So feel confident.
Yeah.
If you get code from TanStack, we intended you to get that code. Whether it works or not, that's in a different category. But we intended you to get that code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. This episode is brought to you by LogRocket. LogRocket provides AI-first session replay and analytics which surface the UX and technical issues impacting user experiences. Start understanding where your users are struggling by trying it free at logrocket.com. Okay. Hot takes. Paul, are you ready? Do you have one? You want to start?
Yeah, I want to build more on the token rug pull that I see more and more people posting about now because it's real. I do understand that rates will increase, or Claude did that thing where it's like, okay, you want to use headless mode, you have to use this extra surcharge, or penny pinching. I get it. They're a company, they have to make money. I just recently and only recently personally have felt more vindictive about our autonomy around our workflows and what we actually need these models for. I don't think we need an F350 to like go to the grocery store type of thing. And right now, we're all just very used to driving the F350 to go to the grocery store. And it's not going to be hard, and you're not going to get rugged. And the hardware is getting better. There's going to be ASICs that come out. There already are in some combobulation for running AI models at home with like great RAM and stuff, but I'm sure we'll find even better architectures of hardware. Maybe Google will come out with some home computing units. Point being, if you think that you're a dev and you're like, oh my God, it's going to be so expensive and these tokens are going to cost so much. Yeah, if you don't change, sure. But just be open to learning and you will be okay. You'll be okay. That's my hot take. Which I don't know why that's a hot take, but based on things I've seen in the past couple months, contrasted with how I've felt and the capabilities I've seen of some of these open source models and the hardware you actually need to get something useful, I guess it is a hot take. So you'll be okay.
It is a hot take in that it is dependent on RAM, which is not cheap.
It's not cheap.
Now. A friend of mine's experimenting with Raspberry Pi, and he's like, oh my, that is not a little thing anymore. That's a substantial investment.
Look, if you at any point are going to hire an Upwork person to help you when a project overruns your bandwidth and you spend $2,000 or $3,000, okay, I spent $3,000 on a 128 gigabyte RAM DDR6 box, and I'll never need to do that again. Pretty good investment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It's now you're right. One of those times when if you're going to hire a dev and send them a new M5, blah, 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 whatever, don't go like the 64 gig model or something like that, or the 30. Christ, don't even go for the 32. Use 128 so they can run local models. They can do that stuff because it's going to save you a fortune.
It will save you
tokens
a
going forward.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Did you come up with one, Jack?
Oh, yeah. As always, I'm not going to do anything technical this time. I'm going to lean back into movies again and say that there is a movie called They Will Kill You that is getting panned critically, but I love this movie. I loved Mad Max Thunder Fury Road. Yeah. I love just kinetic, crazy, over the top stuff. And this movie has it. There's amazing fight scenes. The intensity's great. The music. Oh my God. They use this Doichi track in one of the sections and it is phenomenal. And it seems like the plot's not really all that amazing, but at the same time, the deeper you look into it, it's like this whole Dante's Inferno thing in reverse. And it's, oh, wow, that's actually kind of deep. So I showed it to my kid. I loved it. And then I showed it to my kid and she's, yeah, this movie rocks. So I'm like, yeah, okay, this is cool. They Will Kill You. It's just a lot of fun and it's very intense. And apparently the lead actress spent 4 months training for it and it shows. It's crazy, the stuff she pulls off. I just
looked it up to save it.
Nice. Yeah.
Thanks for
I'll keep a note as well.
Yeah, no problem. Enjoy.
Yeah, okay. My hot take is I'm starting to feel the pain of all of these. The technical recommendation window, I feel like there's a whole new kind of grift opening up, influencer. That's not the thing before of the people with AI companies that we're gonna take our jobs and we're in the final stage of capitalism because of AI and all that jazz. But the more developer persona of here are these 3 new skills that will save you from everything. And I'm just like, I think skills can be really, really nice, but I don't think there's a ton of utility in very broad skills that are kind of trying to like subtly tweak your whole flow and are universally applicable. I think it's like skills are most effective when you're tailoring them for your given project, and you can get a lot of bang for your buck just by like maybe going and looking at a couple of those for inspiration, but then just set them up. It's natural language. There's no magic here. They're markdown files. You can go write your own. Look at people. Look at what other people are doing, but don't just pull a bunch off the shelf and end up with 2,000 skills locally. It's not going to save you any time.
It's going to do that same thing as that package JSON with like 18,000.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the
things
same. Yeah, for sure. Have a couple you like a lot and get your agent using those.
Yeah, I got suckered into this actually. Paige, who's usually here, was like, "Oh, you got to try out this superpowers skill. It's on from Anthropic, and it's going to ask you tons of questions and stuff, and it's going to use subagent, and it's pretty amazing." And I'm like, "Oh, cool. Okay, great." And so I installed it and then promptly forgot that I installed it, which is a great thing to do. Yeah. And then I started like working on a project. And next thing I know, it's like, it would ask me a bunch of questions, do a little bit, and then stop. And then ask me more questions. And it's like, whoa. And then, so I'd be out in the garage and come back. I'm like, you're supposed to be working. Like I'm out in the garage, I'm doing stuff. What do you're supposed to, you're asking me questions? Like you should let me know or something. And it's a superpower thing. And it's like, oh, okay, I get it, but man, really? Don't change my workflow. That's not cool. Let me know first.
I think it's going to be very dependent on the project and the scope. And like, I think that the skills, if you're working in some large mono repo versus a very specific little package, like I think your skills should be entirely different. It's like, it's just, there's not these kind of one size fits all. You should use this for everything. It's just like, it irks me as soon as I'm seeing it now.
That kind of goes hand in hand with what we talked about early on, which is like a really good fixed development environment where like everything's there, you can rely on it, and that way you can run multiple agents simultaneously and feel confident about that. Like, getting that working is one thing, and then getting the skills set up for the development inside of the monorepo. That's like, okay, so before you PR, you want to go and make sure the code rabbit runs and blah, 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 and the lint runs, whatever. So maybe a Husky thing, or, hey, this is our special skill for when you add this type of command. We're going to go and add it to 3 different repos or whatever, whatever that is.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. We're running up on time, so we should wrap here. Yeah, thank you guys for joining me. Good chatting as always.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
See you next month.
Yeah, take it easy.